Hey guys, what's going on? This is Panzer Dragon, and today I want to be doing the top 10 most OP things that will be in Season 6. This top 10 will include things such as champions, masteries, and even items. And it's just going to be my personal rating on what the best things are for this new season, like in terms of OP and being powerful, based on what I just saw in PBE. These will be things that are new, so I'll include things that haven't been changed. And usually the higher the rating on an item or mastery, it actually might define a meta and how much that thing will be used or abused. So the things I talk about might shape the meta in Season 6. Anyways, with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so first up is going to be the Bond of Stone. This mastery looks really good because you can reduce the damage by 8% as long as you're with an ally. So teamfights and in duel lanes, you definitely have a lot of damage reduction while absorbing 8% of the damage that your allies would take. And so this can be really good when you're trying to protect your AD carry or whoever is beside you. Even though this is a support mastery for tanky supports, I feel like it's going to be used with the jungler too, and maybe even with some mage supports like Janna and Lulu. And even if you're in the jungle, you still have that 4% damage reduction, so it still helps. And when you're going in like a 2v2, you have that 8% damage reduction, which can come in handy. But yeah, 8% damage reduction seems like a lot. Although if you already have damage reduction in your kit like Gragas and Alistar, I feel like Ladder Mastery, which gives up to 300 hit point, would be better. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the Guinsoo's Rageblade compared to its old self. So I do feel like this item got buffed really heavily, as now it does grant 3 damage per stack, and it's 8% attack speed instead of 4%, and melees now grant 2 stacks when they hit someone. And finally, the new Guinsoo's Rage now grants you magic damage on hit like Devour and Wit's End. Although the duration only lasts for 5 seconds to 8 seconds, and now you can't charge it with abilities, it's a bit harder to hold the stacks, but once you get your auto attacks in, you become a savage. Like this item with 8 stacks gives a lot of stats. The attack speed is definitely worth noting since it's kind of hard to come across in Season 6. And with just the item itself, it gives 33.5 on-hit magic damage, and so hybrid champions who emphasize on attack speed will love this item. So some champions to think about would be Kog'Maw, since he's changed now, Jax, and Kayle. It really gives you a lot of power once you get those 8 stacks, but of course, it can be tough for the ranged champions, but for someone like Jax or Kog'Maw who has a lot of attack speed, it can be really easy for them to get the stacks. But even though it does give a lot of stats, there aren't really a lot of champions which can use all of the stats efficiently, and there's only a few. And I feel like it's only going to be built on Kog'Maw and maybe not Jax, but that's why I have it kind of relatively low in the list. I don't think it'll be super up, but it's definitely a neat item worth noting. And it's definitely going to be fun with those on-hit builds. Oh, and also the magic damage is AoE. Next up is going to be the Maw of Malmortius. So this item gets 5 less AD, it doesn't grant attack damage per % health lost, and now the shield is a bit weaker. But what it does grant now is 10 more magic resist, 10 armor penetration, and Guinsoo's Rageblade's old passive. So everyone just left their Hexdrinker at Hexdrinker and never upgraded it because Maw of Malmortius wasn't that great. But now, that armor penetration though, plus the life grip passive is gonna be helpful for champions like Riven, Jarvan, Vi, all those AD casters will have an incentive to get this item now, since the new passive plus armor penetration will definitely benefit them a lot. Also, there's a lot of incentive to build this now since Hexdrinker did get nerfed, so if you want a better version of Hexdrinker, you better get this. Next up is going to be Death's Dance. This item is going to be your item for AD casters who want to sustain their health in teamfights and also take reduced damage, as they heal for 12% of the damage dealt, while also having 12% of the damage dealt to them as a bleed effect. So someone like Riven, she is having the bleed effect taken on her, but since she has like a really low cooldown shield, she will actually nullify some of the damage being dealt to her. Someone like Zed, who will do a bajillion damage to someone with a death mark, and then heal a lot after proccing it. And, you know, there is Kha'Zix too. And his Q does a bunch of damage, and now you can spell vamp off it too. Death's Dance will be the new survivability item when an assassin has done his or her core build and needs to start surviving these team fights. Next up at number 6 is gonna be Gosoo's Blade. So probably Gosoo won't buy this on his AD carries, but it's pretty good on assassin-like characters. FYI, you should probably not buy Death's Dance or Gosoo's Blade on Quinn, but this item, you know, it changed from having like 30 AD to 65 AD, and they also removed the crit, which is not really that useful for champions who don't auto attack like Talon, and they prefer much having the consistent damage coming from a 35 AD. You know, sometimes you get unlucky and not even crit with the Ghostly Blade when you're assassinating someone. In general, most AD assassins and casters will indirectly get a buff, as they will be getting more AD off this item. Although I feel like auto attackers like Twitch and Driven won't be getting this item anymore, since there's no more crit and there's definitely more efficient items for them. Next up at number 5 is going to be the Hunter's Potion. So this item is going to be like Flask, it's actually a bit weaker, and it's actually probably going to only be for junglers. But basically the reason this item is so good is because every time you kill a large monster you get a charge, so that means more hit point and mana and sustain. And so if you do have your machete plus this item, you basically have infinite sustain. It's kind of weird to say that, you know, this is going to be in this list, but honestly it's pretty powerful in my opinion, and I feel like infinite sustain on junglers is just too much, and so the jungler will have a lot of power on the map since he'll probably never have to back. Either way, this is going to be like a flash just for junglers, in which you can probably get a lot of charges on. Next up we have the Tracker's Knife. So instead of having Skirmisher's Saber or Stalker's Blade, what you're getting is basically a free Sightstone, so you don't have to pay that 800 gold just to get the Sightstone. And so for competitive play, and even higher ELO, this is probably what every jungler is going to buy. Some junglers may deviate, but of course vision is very important. And now since they removed the buy of Sight Wards, how else is a jungler supposed to get wards without his Trinket or Sightstone? So yeah, I expect to see this smite every time bought in like high elo. Next up at number 3 is gonna be Graves. So there's a lot of things that have been changed to him, but out of like all the marksman reworks, he's probably the most OP or the best. In terms of just numbers, obviously they can nerf him and make him either like, you know, balanced or just nerfed to the ground, but I just want to talk about his numbers. First of all, his Q. The first part doesn't do that much damage and only goes up by like 20 damage per level. But the second part, it is actually a really good wave clear and does a ton of damage in teamfights since it's actually going up by 65 damage per level to a total of 380 plus 1.2 bonus AD. So there's like really good upfront damage and he's really bursty. On top of that, the smoke screen is really good CC now because you can't actually see out of it. So you're basically useless for however long you're in there. Unless you have like skill shots, then you can toss them out. But I feel it's really good. And finally his E. This thing, with 40% CDR and shotgun blasts to the face up close, we'll have Graves playing Dash Dash Revolution all day, and also granting him like 30 to 120 armor and magic resist. Combined with someone like Lulu, you have this person basically unkillable and just destroying your team, or you know, something like a Protect the Graves comp kind of deal. And yeah, I just feel like he's going to be one of the most OP marksmen in the next season. And finally, the best item in the game, I will say right here, spoilers alert, is going to be the Essence Reaver. So when I was comparing stats with the Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge, I was like, what the hell? Infinity Edge kind of sucks. They have the same base stats, but just different passives. Like Infinity Edge only gives you 50% more damage on your critical strikes. When we look at Essence Reaver, it gives you a lot of mana, 10% cooldown reduction, and an additional 20% cooldown reduction if you buy 20% crit, which it only costs like 730 gold or 1100 if you buy a Zeo. And because it's so easy for an AD carry or anyone else to get crit, you might see AD carry caster meta, which, you know, the AD carries who scale really good with cooldown reduction will be the best. It also solves some mana problems for some people. For instance, Lucian. His E costs 40 mana per dash, so now, since you have Essence Reaver, it doesn't cost anything. And now he likes maxing out W again. I mean, you do have the crit to get your mana back, but honestly, if you have enough crit, you'll be having infinite mana. So what I advise is this item probably go down to 20% CDR instead of, you know, 30. Then maybe it might not be, you know, really good. And the number 1 is going to be Jax. So in Season 6, they actually buffed Jax to have like superpowers where he just looks at you and kills you. He jumps randomly, but like he's so OP, he doesn't even need to swing his lamp anymore. Nah, I'm just fucking with ya. It's going to be this mastery called Warlord's Bloodlust. So this Keystone Mastery is probably the strongest out of all the Keystone Masteries. Like every 2 seconds you will heal 15% of your critical strike, not all of them, just one. And you also have 20% attack speed for the next 4 seconds, which is basically permanent since you'll be spamming crits all day if you're Yasuo, or you know, any other champion. But Yasuo will make use of this mastery really quickly, and also it just gives you sustain if you're like just randomly CSing minions and you crit. You definitely heal like so much, and that's why for like some champions, if you're planning on getting Essence Reaver or Infinity Edge, you should always get the 20% crit if you can, just because this mastery is just really good. It's also going to be probably one of the reasons why Yasuo will be really good in Season 6, along with his 50% armor penetration coming from his ultimate, since Last Whisper only affects bonus armor now, which means it's hard to find % armor penetration these days. But yeah, I think Warlord's Bloodlust has to be tuned down a pretty big amount. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you really did like this video, make sure to press that like button as it does support my channel a lot, and comment below on what you think is going to be the most OP thing for Season 6. Obviously, I think it's going to be Warlord Bloodlust plus Yasuo, but I want to hear your opinions in the comments below. And again, thank you for watching. I'm Panzer Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.
See the finish line with each line that I finish.